Hey, John here. So let's say you're surfing the web and you find a website like this thing. I just did a quick Google. I don't know anything about this site, but apparently they have free like icons and stuff. Check out the license. It says you can use them for free on open source stuff as long as you put the a link to this site in your project. I just verbally link to it. I'll throw another one in the description and I'm covered. You can use all their icons as long as it's up to 100 pixels when you download it. Okay, that's great. Keep that in mind when we get to the selection pages, okay? So I surf around, I see a bunch of these things, and I'm like, oh, look here, this is pretty nifty. You know, somehow I ended up in astrology and found this autumn-themed page, and I thought, oh, this is kind of a neat maple leaf. And I can grab it and I can stick it in my project. Now here's where the 100 pixels come in. You want it to be as big as possible within the license agreement. If I click here on the custom icon on this particular website, I've noticed that I want to do this, then click away. Don't hit the checkbox or anything else. It does weird things if you do that. Then I hit download. I get one and only one file, autumn100.ping. I want to save it. Go in there, leave it, go in the downloads directory with some other junk that's been lying around. Okay, I now have this icon saved. Let me bury this. We're going to come back because this is not the one we want. Let me show you some interesting phenomena here. You're going to run into this. So this is a brand new project. I just created it. Here's my new schematic. Let us click down here. I did this once before. There's a little camera icon. And I say, oh, let me put a picture on my page. So here we go. There's my maple leaf. Now, if we zoom way in, look when I move this leaf around. You see how I can see around and kind of through the blades of the leaves there? This thing has an alpha channel in it. Okay, I'm going to put it right there. It looks great here, but guess what? It doesn't look great anywhere else. If you go to your print routine here, which has never worked in any version of KiCad that I've ever used. So, I mean, I don't even know why I'm bothering. Forget it. Don't even use it. I use plot instead of print. And usually what I do is I create a PDF. I would open the PDF in a PDF browser and print it from there, okay? Turns out these look better. Both printing and plotting have the same problem that you're about to see. So if you go in here and I say, look, I leave this blank up here. It'll put it in the current project directory. I just say plot everything. This is the project directory that I just created for this project. So I hit that and I hit close, bury this thing, and then over here you'll notice a PDF arrived. Let's open it up. Oh me, oh my, look what happens. If you put an image in here that has an alpha channel, at least in a ping anyway, it doesn't work. You just get this big black square, worthless, in KiCad. Maybe they'll fix that someday. Maybe they won't. I don't know. If you're using this particular site, they do have an option. It says, oh, look, I want to give it a background. Instead of making it alpha, transparent, okay, make it white. Done. Download that one. Okay, 100. Same as before. This time, it's going to want to overwrite the same file because it named it the same thing for some reason. So I'm going to call this one 100W for the white version and bury this. We're done with this. Okay, so now I've got this other one over here. Let's put that guy on there as well and see what happens. Downloads 100W. Now when you move this one around, you see it clearly has a white background because it's kind of obscuring around it. Okay, let's put it there. Save this. Escape out of here. By the way, you'll notice that the cursor's a little different on this particular thing. I upgraded since my last video to this version here, 512. Okay, so I've got these two guys here, right? Let's go back to Mr. Plot and do it again. Plot all the pages, and it just overwrote the other one. Close it, bury it, open it back up again. Now let's see what happens. The one with the white background, you recall, I place it to the left of the one with the alpha. So in terms of just putting images on your schematic, don't use ones with alpha, at least not in this release, or the older ones didn't work right for me either. So I'm going to click on this and hit delete. That's the alpha version. I'm going to just leave the other photo right there, just for fun. So we're fortunate that they gave us the option to give us a transparent one or one with a white background. What happens if the only thing you have is an image file that has a transparent background? Well, you can open it up in one of these graphics editing programs. I'm on Linux, so I use GIMP. In GIMP, and I've seen this in Photoshop as well, not this particular image, but I have seen Photoshop. When you have a transparent part of your image, you see this checkerboard. All right, so the leaf is black on a transparency. Now, while we're in here, let's look very closely at something. Notice the leaf is black, the background is transparent, and in between we've got these kind of dark gray and light gray pixels. This is what we call anti-aliasing an edge. Okay, this is going to be important in a minute when we go to import it, because we have to decide what do you want to do with that edge. All right, if you click in GIMP anyway, and you look around a little bit, I would right click on this item, which are in my layers. I'm not going to teach you how to use GIMP. You can figure this out on your own, but if you just open it up in GIMP like I just showed you, you get this screen here. If you right click on this, go down here, remove the alpha channel. Okay, you now have an image with no alpha channel. It might be that the background color that you now get is garbage, or you don't like it. Well, that you can figure out how to use GIMP and edit this and do all that other fun stuff. Okay, so this is one thing you can do. In this particular version of GIMP, I have to go File, then I can't say Save. I got to go Export As, and then I can save it however I want. I'm going to make this 100G. So I don't overwrite the other ones, all right? And go ahead and save it. When you save it, look closely in here. Background color, gamma, all these things. The color values from transparent ping. It should look like it does for me right now, if it's a ping anyway. It should just look like this. If it has background colors and transparency in here, then you didn't remove the alpha channel. The transparency has not been deleted. Alpha has to do with the transparency, all right? So then I hit export. I'm all done. Get out of here. And it wants to save it as, you know, its own format as well. I don't care. Discard it. Go away. Bye-bye. Okay. Now I have the transparent version, the one I downloaded, and the one I made with GIMP, all right? So let's, given this now, go over to this A thing right there, which says Bitmap Converter, all right? We're going to make they call it a component. We're going to make footprints, and we're going to make library symbols and stuff out of this image now. You say load bitmap, go over to your download. Okay, there we go. And I'm not going to use the alpha version. If you use the alpha version, it looks perfectly fine. What you can see is the outside of this. This is a light gray. I don't know how well that's going to show up on the video. You'll see it in contrast to what happens when we load the one with a white background that has the W on it. Okay, now you can see there's a white border around it. Okay, this is the one we want. If you use the alpha one, it'll do the same stupid thing it did over here and make the whole thing a black box, and you won't know what's going on. Very confusing, because it'll look good in here, but it won't work once you export it. All right, enough said about the alpha problem. Click on the black and white picture over here. You got this grayscale, black and white, and so on. This slider over here has to do with all those anti-aliasing grays around the edges. If you watch the leaf, especially the stem right here, while I move this back and forth, you can see the stem got a little bit thinner, and now it's getting thicker, okay? So what I'm really doing was I move this over to the right like this, as I'm saying I want to incorporate more of those gray pixels, the lighter and lighter grays, into the portion of this image that I want to make into my, symbol picture or my footprint or, the silkscreen image or whatever I'm going to do with this thing, all right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move it to just beyond where it shows up. And what that will do is it'll make it look a little bit smaller, and it'll change, the corners will be a little bit sharper and so on. I kind of like that look a little bit better. Okay, so it's easier to create, in my opinion, and demonstrate what happens with the footprints here. Now, it gives you the option to put it on the front silk screen or the front solder mask. Okay, let's do the easy thing first. Put it on the front silk screen. And then I'm gonna leave all this stuff up here in defaults. We'll come back to that later. Exporting. Now remember, in my earlier videos, I made a library down here for my footprints, my custom footprints. I'm going to put this in the directory with my other footprints. The footprint libraries in this release of KiCad is a directory, and every file in the directory is a footprint. So I can call this thing icon 8-autumn. I'm going to call this autumn 1 because we're going to have to make a couple of different ones to get all these effects done here. So I'm not going to give it an extension. It'll add the Kmod and so on. So save. All right, I'm going to leave this sitting here. We'll come back to that. Let's save this schematic. Well, before we do that, let's put a ground on here. You'll see why in a minute. At a minimum, we need to have a signal. Otherwise, we cannot pour a polygon. Come on. Actually, I don't even need a wire on it. Doesn't matter. Let's make a net list. Save. All right. Simplest net list in the world. Got a net of 1. All right, let's open up our PCB editor. Again, I'm in 5.1.2. If I open up and import my net list now, for some reason unknown to me, they no longer default it to the one and only one that would ever make sense, which is the one and only one sitting in the default directory right here like they did in all the previous versions. I don't know. This screen looks a little bit different than the other one. It's nice. This is a nicer tool, okay? It really is. It's just, why didn't they come the full 10 yards? I don't know. Anyway, what happens in this newer version is it will do a dry run, tell you what's going to happen before it does happen, which is really nice of them, okay? I'm going to leave update and delete footprints and so on. These are not the defaults. It's still on here because I checked this before. It's odd because I did this in a different project and it still retained that user setting, even though I changed project. I had killed and restarted the whole thing. That can be disorienting, at least to me, because it's different than what it used to be. It's not wrong, it's just different. So keep your wits if you're playing around after you do these upgrades. So anyway, doesn't matter because I'm doing a brand new import anyway, and I'm going to close it. All right. What did I do? I brought one net in here that has no footprint, so it's exactly what should happen. I did that so I can come over here, plop it down in here, go find a footprint, icon 8, blah, blah, blah. Where is it? If I spelled it right, I would find it. There's the one I just put into my library. Boom. Now this thing is gigantic, okay? Because I didn't play with the size, let's have a look-see. We can inches, that's fine, whatever. Let's draw some dimension lines on here. How big is this thing? If you put this on a PC board, that thing is 1 3/4 inches high. That's a pretty big icon. I don't know, maybe you make a giant PC board, whatever floats your boat. Let's put some edge cuts on here so we can look at it in the board viewer thingy in 3D mode. Polygon. They also changed, by the way, in this release, what happens when you close this polygon. When I do this, you no longer have it lingering out in the middle of nowhere to hit escape, which, you know, okay, fine. I would argue they probably fixed that. You could still do a close polygon outline and stuff like that, but whatever. I'm just saying. So Alt 3, give me the 3D view. There's my PC board. It looks like I drew the dimension on the silk screen layer. I wasn't thinking. Nonetheless, there it is. It's a silk screen on top of the solder mask, on top of the FR4. Let's look very closely at this edge. When I'm not grabbing and moving it, it renders it in 3 dimensions, including the depth of the ink itself. All right, and this is going to be kind of important in a second when we understand some other things. So this brown stuff here, you're looking at the edge of the FR4, the fiberglass that's in the PC board. This green stripe is the edge of the solder mask, which is actually a silk screen in its own right, but oh fine. This is the solder mask. The gap in between, if there was copper, you'd see the copper stuff drawn in there. The white on top up here is the silk screen layer, all right? So we got silk screen on top of solder mask on top of copper on top of FR4. So if you put it on the front silk screen, what we're doing is we're saying put ink where there's black in this picture, all right? If you go to the solder mask, what you're doing is you're saying, I don't want ink, or in this case, the solder mask to flow through where it's black, all right? I'll use all the same settings and the same size. We'll export this one. So the only difference is I changed from silkscreen to solder mask. Export. Let's make another one. Let's just do this and change the 1 to a 2. Now we go over here and let's put another leaf down on here. This time we're going to put number 2 on there. All right, so there's your silk screen. There's the solder mask type of thing right there. Okay, let's put it next to it. We should have made the board bigger. Let's get this dimension out of my way. Now I have a new board outline. Save, Alt-3. So it makes sense that it would be brown. Why? Because I'm looking through the green solder mask and at the brown FR4 that we saw a minute ago in here, okay? Now you'll see why I put the ground in there. This is a hole in the solder mask. This is white ink on top of the solder mask, the guy on the left, right? So if I put a filled region in here, where's my ground net? I go through all this work to create a ground net, and they don't give it to me as an option in my drawing. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's go ahead and put a cap on there. Okay, here's the menus that don't work. Seriously? You'd think they could test it enough to get this to work. Oh, geez, it's just jumping all over the place. All right, so there we go. That's really the only thing that's really annoying about it right now in this release. I suspect I'm not the only one who's concerned about this, and maybe they'll fix it soon. Would be nice. Although it's been a few weeks. What was the date on this thing? Widgets, blah, blah, blah. They don't have a release date on there? That's another pet peeve of mine. You make a web sheet, a web page that has information on it, especially if it's a how-to or a help page, put a date on it. Everything needs to be dated nowadays. If it's not dated, it is of no value because you don't know how old it is. All right, there we go. And all my videos have dates. Thank you very much. Save. Annotate these things. It doesn't really matter how it does it. Just do it. Close. Save. Netlist. Overwrite that one. Go over here. Import it. Now, once you've selected it once, it retains it so that it stays your default. So, I mean, it could be worse. It could blanket every stinking time. I forgot to put a footprint on my capacitor because I was yakking and not thinking about what's going on. Here's the new component editor. I'm not sure I like it more or less. I could take it or leave it. It works. Yay. By the way, this thing has always driven me nuts. Scrolling around, looking for everything, trying to find it. You can do a search in here if you click the thing in the upper left. That was the first time I've ever done it was when I was playing around with this thing. I guess I don't really care because all I want is a capacitor. And here we go. I need something, anything. There you go. A nice big old electrolytic. And double click it and say OK. Save netlist. All right, get this thing out of the way. Go over here, import this. Okie dokie, all green now. Looks good. Update it. Sure, whatever. Close. Here's the new cap. Let's put it on our board. Why did we do this? Because I want to have some signals that I can actually do something on. When I imported it, remember those footprints just went away because I foolishly had it set to delete all the footprints. Whoopsie. We saw that in a previous video too, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and get the number 2 here. This is the one that has the hole in the solder mask. All right. So now we got to make sure our polygons are turned on. Let's go ahead and pour in a polygon, put it on the ground zone. Okay, yeah, these are set earlier. I made this 10 and 10. on my first attempt to do this, and I screwed it up. So FYI, I changed the radiuses from the defaults. Close the zone outline. Okay, save. And escape to get out of this thing. All right, so now what do we got going on here? We have the copper pour. It's connected to the ground pin of our capacitor. All right. And if we click around and go to the mask layer over here, we can see the solder mask cutouts. Obviously, it's going to cut it out for a pad, and it's going to cut it out for this footprint because that's what that footprint does. So let's go ahead and open it with Alt-3. Now this thing is gold. Now the reason it's gold, it would literally be gold if you got this, gold plated on your board. What you're looking at now is the polygon copper through the hole in the solder mask that this footprint represents. Okay, let's close this down. Let's draw a trace like this. Through here, over there, and down, okay? Hit escape, repour the polygons. Now I have a trace that even goes through there, Alt-3. So this really is just a hole in the solder mask you can look through. So if you do this, and I think it would look cool, by the way, your corporate logo in gold on your PC board, that's kind of cool. If you do it, though, make sure you don't run a bunch of traces through there, because then it'll look stupid. All right? All right, so you now get the gist. What happens when you put these things on the silkscreen layer and on the solder mask layer. So what if you wanted it not to be gigantic, okay? As it is right now, if you import it, it's 55 millimeters. Why I can't just edit this, I don't know. What I can do, and now it's nice to note that this is in inches and this is in millimeters, just to make it, just to make it a little bit fun here, right? Now, let's say I want it to only be 10 millimeters high. Well, that'll be 1/5 of whatever this is, and the resolution here is used to convert each pixel at this resolution into the target size of the object that's being created. So I want it 1/5 of this, make this 1/5 bigger, 250. It'll be around the right size if I do that. If you want it exactly, it's probably like 262. What does it come out to? All right, 260, 258, I don't know. You can guess your way through it or get a calculator and just do the ratio, right? Go back to your grade school math and figure it out. Now I'm going to go back to the silk screen and I'm going to export this one, and this one's going to be about 1 centimeter high. So I'm going to overwrite number 1, okay? I'm not going to create a new one again. This time what I'm going to do is I am going to open up the footprint editor, which is this guy right here. Okay, now I'm going to go find icon 8, and you'll notice this scroller here, by the way, will be all screwed up like the other one was. If you start messing around in here, things start going nuts. All right, well, I don't need to demonstrate that. You'll find out soon enough on your own. So I just rewrote this one, icon 1. This one should be about 1 centimeter. If we get our little gauger measurizer thing and we go like this, and we can find out, yay, it's whatever it comes. Well, remember it had a little bit of a border on it. So the copper on this is what, about 8 millimeters, even though the thing with its border is 10. So you might have to tinker around a little bit to get the sizing right. You can't scale anything in here that I'm aware of, so you're going to have to figure that out on your own if you really care about the exact size of this thing. So inside here, there's another thingy that is the reference. There it is. I'm trying to select it. Oh, come on. Somewhere in here, you right-click yourself to death. Here. There we go. You'll eventually click on the. Come on. Oops. Fine. Jeez, what a nightmare. Oh my God, fine. Just move this thing out of the way. Get this stupid thing out of your way. Okay, great. Now select it and hit M. Move it back in the middle. Okay. You'll notice, by the way, that when you select this thing, you get a million little white thingies around here. So this is an insight as to what that import tool does. in order to be useful in KiCad, it can't be a rastered bitmap. That has no real value. It needs to have an outline. This is a bunch of lines all connected together in a polygon. It's either a polygon or a whole bunch of these, maybe mixed with these, and so on, to draw around this outline. So what's really happening in the import is it's doing an edge finding algorithm, and then it's drawing a bunch of lines to approximate the curves in the original image. Okay? So that's really what's going on here. Okay, so this is about wanting to create an actual footprint that you can solder onto. Okay, so if I hit the right mouse click on this thing and get rid of that menu, or even if you use the menu, all I want to do is edit it. Normally I would do that and hit E. It'd take me 10 minutes to find it in here. I guess properties, okay? What you want to do is move it to another layer. If I move it to front copper, all right, now this is a copper pour, okay? It does not have a hole for the solder mask. Let's go ahead and save this, and I'll show you what I mean. Let's place one on here. Icon. Same misspelling I did last time, and there's our wonderful navigation problem again. Okay, now you see it's a little bit smaller, and I put it in the middle of the filled region. If I hit B to refill the region knows, hey, that copper ain't my copper, so stay away from it. Now we go Alt-3 to look at it, and what we've got is this leaf over here is filled with copper. However, unlike the leaf over here, it has the solder mask on top of it. So it's not a footprint per se, like a footprint is on this capacitor up here, okay? So we're moving in this direction here. Let's go ahead and back to the editor, which I left open in here somewhere. All right, so he's on a copper layer. Let's say you want to make this copper and just be copper and have it exposed just like it is when I have the regular old mask hole over the polygon pour. But let's say I don't want this copper to be part of a polygon pour. I want it to be on its own. Well, what I can do is I can select this thing, get rid of that menu, and I can then say, well, actually, you can use the menu. You can copy it, all right? And when you do the copy, now it actually gives you a hint. Remember in an earlier video I said the way you copy a thing is you select it, you then hit copy, then you click on the thing that you've already selected to make the copy, then you can hit the right mouse button or you can hit Control-V to do a paste, all right? Now, I've pasted it on top of itself. You want them to align. Now, given the way the alignment and the way you grab these things, you don't want to put it down over here and then move it. I could never get them to align themselves when I did that. So what do we got now is I've got two copper things right on top of each other. Don't deselect this. Leave it selected. Hit E and just say move this one onto the solder mask, okay? Now I've got two layers. If I right click in here, it's going to say, well, which one do you want to choose? One of them's on the copper, one of them's on the solder mask, both on the front side of the board. So that kind of gives you a hint that we did it right. Control S to save it. Now, you'll notice inside the board editor, we're still messing around with Autumn 1. Okay? This is Autumn 1, and now I've changed it in the library, and I'm about to put another one down here. And consistent in my mistyping, icon. Whoops. All right, hit B to re-pour again. Okay, save. Alt-3. Now look what we got. Now we've got a copper leaf with a cutout that matches that copper in the solder mask layer. This is the other one without the cutout, right? And this is just the cutout over the whatever is under it, like the fill and so on, okay? Now, the only other thing I want to go into now is, let's say you really want this to be a thing that is electrically part of your schematic. Maybe you drew a specialized antenna in here, and you want to be able to connect a trace to it, you know, schematic-wise. There would be a single pin footprint, right? Okay, so let's say we go to the front copper layer. We grab pad, and we put it right in the middle of the thing here, all right? I just clicked it in there to put one down there. Now, I'm going to hit E, and it's going to say, what do you want to edit? Well, I'm going to edit the pad. Go in here. I'm going to make it surface mount, and I don't really care about its size and stuff like that. You'll notice it's on the paste and the mask and the copper. Remember, this is a real pad, all right? While the leaf is just a thing that's sitting there in the copper. And in this case, I got the copper and I have the solder mask removed. If I right-click on here, copper and mask. Okay, I'm going to grab the mask and I'm going to delete this. Okay, so now I have copper here. I have a pad here, a legitimate pad right there. In this state, let me go ahead and go over here and place one so you see what it really looks like. Because this is kind of an important step. So it's removing footprints. Well, no, I don't want to do that. I want to just put another footprint down. ICON 8. Look at that. I typed it right this time. Oops, it's giant. I must have chose the wrong one. I'm really good at this. Hello. Okay. So let's put a footprint down here. ICON 8. We want number 1. That's the one we're playing around with. Hit B to redo the pour. Now you notice that there was a 1 sitting there when I did this. That's because it's pin number 1 on a real footprint, sort of. Let's look at this in 3D. Look what happened here. There's the pad, a legitimate footprint pad, and it's electrically, the copper is the same copper as the rest of this leaf. All right, so that means KiCad knows there's a pad there, and it knows that this is copper and, you know, the usual stuff like we did down here. Now, I removed the mask specifically so you could see where it ends because the pad is there, all right? And we're going to leave it out because we're going to see in a minute how this thing sort of works. Let's say I want to connect this thing up to my capacitor or something like that. Let's get out of here and go back to the schematic here. Let's put in here a simple pad. You must be able to put if I can get the menu to work right. Heatsink pad, mounting hole pad. Yeah, we did this in another video, okay? Let's just call that a mounting hole pad for the sake of simplicity. It's a thing with 1 pin on it is the key here. We can then edit this. We can go and grab a footprint, and we can put our icon there. Now we can actually use this. Icon 8, Autumn 1. And put that in there as its footprint and hit OK and hit save and make a net list. And overwrite the same one we've been doing the whole. Oh, I forgot to annotate it. Very good. OK, there we go. It saved it. Now let's do a full, that's the footprint editor. Let's do a full import with all the deletes and everything else at this point and clean everything up. All right, delete extra footprints. It's going to remove all those, and then it's going to create a new one because of the one I just put in the schematic. Close. All right, here we go. There you go. Hit B to repour. Let's just hide the polygons at this point. It's not a big deal. This guy is now a footprint. And the pad in here, the center of the pad, where I place the pad, is where this little air wire goes and where it wants you to connect this trace. If I go like this, you can obviously come in here, bring it around and connect it to the actual pad that's inside there, and now it's satisfying. All right, again, go back to the thingy here and everybody's happy. Okay, quit. Let's report the polygons just to be sure. Right, go back to here. And again, you can see it's all happy. There's the trace and so on. Now, what if you really want the footprint to be the actual shape of this whole leaf? All right, well, here's what you do to do that. Inside here, you want to combine the pad and the polygon into one thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them both right now, right click, and inside here it says, look, create a pad from all of these shapes that have been selected. Now, save. This whole thing is a pad. Let's hit save. Go find my PC board. Now, I could either place another one or I can play some other games. Look at what happens here. If I select this thing and I hit E, well, the old version had a button up here. The new one, it's over here. See where it says update footprint from library? If you're going to be messing around the PC board and clowning around the library at the same time, you can just come in here and say update it. Say, do you want me to update everything and check to see if they've all changed, or do you just want to do this one? I didn't change the rest, so this is fine. Just do the one, apply, close. All right, now, look what happened now. You can sort of see there's a new halo around here. That's because, much like all the other pads, it's working differently. It's the whole leaf that's the pad. So this now is a real pad. As drawn now, it's a different color because it's drawing, I guess, the solder on top of the copper. All right. If you recall back to when we were editing the footprint, and we actually looked at the pad that's on this footprint, what happens is you see this paste. What you're looking at in the 3D viewer is the paste. And I guess it's a good thing we're looking at this, because if you got a stencil made for this board with this thingy on it, and you have this thing set right here, this is the stencil cutout. If you want the stencil to fill the entire leaf with paste, leave this on. If you don't, turn it off. So I'm going to hit OK. I'm going to hit Control S, go back over here, select this footprint here. All right. Again, and I want to hit edit, and I will update the library, dingus again. Okay, close, save, Alt F3, and now we're in gold again. All right, so this little side note is, if you don't want your solder stencil to have a hole here, turn that fill off, the paste clicker off in the footprint. All right. So this should be enough for you to be able to get pretty much any arbitrary shape created and onto your board in copper or silk screen, or just a hole in the solder mask, or whatever you want to do. All right. So let me get out of here and go back to the schematic. So the open issue is, what if I want this to be a leaf here and not, a mounting hole thingy? All right. Now we go, bink. I want a library file instead of a footprint file. Again, I want it not to be too gigantic, so I'm going to just leave it set like this. And this size here is going to be the size on the page, given the size of the sheet and all. This is a pretty reasonable size. So I'm going to hit export on this one, and I'm going to find my project directory and preferably put it in the right one. Okay, there we go. I'm going to put the library inside my project directory this time, because I don't want to make a mess all over the place, so I can clean this up later. Let's call this leaf 1. Save. All right, now I can go over here in preferences. We saw this before. Looks a little bit different, but it's the same old thing. This is the add one as opposed to the add an empty row, or I get to type it in and screw it up. So what do we add here? 52 bitmap. This is my project, and there's my library, which I can't see anything because this is screwed up. But if you click right here, you can see it. So it's really there. It's just invisible. Okay, now I got my library in there. Those are two items I don't like about the new release. Icon, what did I call this? It was like leaf 1 or something like that. So when I imported it, I have no ability to name it. So it, by default, just calls it logo. I don't know how I could change that. If anybody knows, let me know. But it doesn't really matter, because you have a library with one thing in it anyway. What you're really going to do is go open your editor, copy it out of that library, put it in the library you want it to be in, and then delete the Leaf 1 library anyway, if you're going to do this in any practical sense. But as a demo, I can just do this. Okay. Now, what do we got here? That is a picture of the thing, but it doesn't have any pins. So if I Control E, we'll play the same game that we did with the footprint. All right, so let's put a pin down here. Pin 1. This thingy, we want to make it passive line. Okie dokie. And fine, we'll put it on the leaf stem. Why not? Okie dokie. Save. And quit. All right, now it updated the one in the schematic automatically, unlike the PC board where you have to say recreate them. I don't know what that's all about, but it's fine. It's handy because that's what I want anyway. All right, now we have a leaf dingus that actually has a pin on it in the schematic. Let's go ahead and edit it because I deleted the other thing. Let's put this, create the thingy and put a footprint on there. Why is, oop. There we go. Double click there. Okay. Save. Netlist. No, I forgot to annotate it. It's going to gripe again, but who cares? There's the annotation. Thank you very much. Save. By the way, there's a pound in there because when it imported it, it thought it was a logo. You know, it thought it was a thing that's not going to be a real pad. Remember the pound? It says if there's a pound in there, do not show up in the net list, do not show up in the bill of materials or the symbol list or anything like that. So, oopsie, get rid of the pound. All right? Okie dokie. Save. Now create a net list. Save. All right. And the leaf will now be in the net list. All right. I don't know why I'm still editing this. Get rid of that. Where's the PC board? I must have closed it. You don't need this anymore. All righty. Turn off the zone fills or whatever they call them. Let's delete and update and replace. They added a new symbol, G1, and I'm removing the old thingy, H1. Update the PC board. Yes. Clues. All right. Now here we got our fancy schmancy guy. Now remember, the leaf still has this notion of the pad being over here. If you really wanted the pad to be in the stem down here, when you put the pad on here, before you combine it into one thing, you can put it way over here. And then that, you know, the notion of its center of the thing that needs to be connected would then be down there on the stem. All right? I'm not going to do that. I'll leave that as a task for the reader, as it were, as we say. I can still just as easily go over here and connect it through the stem. Anyhow, all right. Woohoo! Well, sort of I can. if the routing logic didn't cause it to want to wander all over the place for no reason. Come on. Get it in there. Well, whatever. You know what I mean. Save. 3D. And it's all out of whack because I didn't repour the polygons. Even though they're not looking, I just hit B. If we turn them on, you can see now they're poured correctly. And there we go. And it's connected through the stem. Yay. Okay. Now, you've got the symbol in your schematic with whatever drawing you want on it. You got a way to make a footprint. You know how to make the relationship between the symbols and the footprints. When you import this weird looking thing, don't forget rid of the pound sign or the hash or the octothorpe or whatever you may call it in your lifestyle. And you should be in business. So that's how you create weird looking symbols and footprints. Let me know what you think in the comments below. If I forgot something or messed it up, let me know. Thanks for watching. Bye.